Hey guys, welcome to another Vahagraphy Talk. This is number 55, and today I am excited because we got Touch Life Studio Vitali in the house, one on one. We're going to talk Z9, we're going to talk wedding photography, we're going to talk business and YouTube. What's going on, Vitali?
Hey, good morning, Vahagan, and good afternoon to everybody who's watching. Thanks for inviting me over to your show. Very privileged to be part of it. And as I watched a lot of your shows, and I've been had a lot of fun and learned a lot. Thanks for
Uh,
inviting me.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me here, man. This is going to be special for me, and I'll tell you why. We're talking event and weddings, and we're talking Nikon Z9. You have the camera for some time now. We can talk about it. And for those of you guys that are watching, there it is. For those of you guys that are watching this and that have the Z9 or thinking about getting a Nikon Z9 and you're an event wedding photographer, this is the show to watch. So you're going to have a good time. We're going to cover it all. You have a Z9, I have a Z9. So we're going to get into it. So before we get into it, though, Vitali, for those of you who don't know you and your YouTube channel and your photography, tell the audience a little bit about you and stuff like that.
Sure. So maybe I will start with maybe my personal introduction to photography in general was when I was a little kid. I would see my father actually. He wouldn't have a dark room at the time, but he was shooting film, and he would, develop his film in the bathroom in the dark. So me as a kid, I was, really interested in that. But then obviously things kind of went on, and it's my personal, I guess, introduction to photography started back in 2001 when I had a chance to travel to California. I spent about 3 months in San Jose
Oh,
and kind of
nice.
working for 3 months at an amusement park, and earned my first paycheck, and had a chance to go to Walmart and purchased a film camera at the time, a Vivitar, one of those point and shoot cameras, and that lasted for about a year. And then in 2002, I think I purchased my first camera. Actual digital camera was like, I don't know, 1.3 megapixels or something, maybe 2 megapixels. That was a Canon point and shoot camera, and that was kind of cool. And then things sort of died down for me a little bit, and it was more closer to when I was already married. Actually, so how everything started for me at that point was my wife and I were expecting our first child,
Oh,
and my
nice.
wife was about 6, 7 months pregnant at the time, and I was, wanted to take some pictures of her and kind of our
And is this
first
is this
born.
wait, is this where you're in California or is this you moved
This
out?
was already here back in Connecticut.
Okay, you're in
And that
Connecticut.
was actually 2009,
Mhm.
2009, 2010. Anyway, so my wife was pregnant. We were expecting our first child, and I wanted to buy a first camera. So that's went to Best Buy, and I purchased the Nikon at the time. I think D5000, and that was kind of a challenging situation because we actually experienced our first pregnancy loss. So at that time,
Oh,
and so a lot of the photography kind of went down to quiet corner. And but anyway, so we had a camera, and then I started using a little bit more during those times, and taking pictures of friends and events, and I got really interested in that. Started posting on social media, and people liked it, and people started asking me, hey, can you do this event for me and that event for me, and that which led to weddings. A friend of mine asked me to do their first wedding, and that kind of started. I was really having a lot of fun.
wait, wait,
I
wait, wait,
was
wait, wait. When what year is this? Your first wedding?
My first wedding was in 2011, I want to say.
What were you shooting with?
And I was shooting at the time. I think I didn't have because I want to get a full frame camera at the time. And I still
Uh-huh.
was shooting with crop sensor. I think I switched to like a D5500, but I knew for weddings I want to get something better. So I couldn't afford money at the time. I couldn't afford camera at the time. So I ended up renting it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, rented like a D800 or D810. I can't remember.
So
With a
Nikon, you've
couple
been
of,
a Nikon guy for years.
yeah, because I was familiar with Nikon system. I'm like, why do I want to go with something else? I just want to get something more robust. And so I rented a camera, and kind of start gaining more clients that way, more events, birthday parties, engagement shoots, and things of that nature. And then we kind of moved in our house, and we bought a house at the time. We had some space to make a studio in the basement, and kind of start doing that on the holidays, and buying backdrops, and just really coming in, a lot of friends coming in for holiday shoots and of that nature. And people were just asking for more and more shoots. And this is how I got into sort of like photography. It's not my full-time job,
Uh-huh.
because I have I'm an engineer, basically,
Wow.
nine to five. So, but I just enjoy creating. I enjoy building. Not only photography, but I like to build things out of wood, tables,
Wow.
um, you know, different furniture.
That's
So it's kind of,
awesome, man.
I
That's
got
awesome.
left and right brain, basically, for for creativity, and those kind of things.
That's awesome, man. So fast forward to 2023. Do you wedding event and wedding photography? I assume you enjoy it, right?
I love it. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it's not a pressure for me. I love, preparation. I love, I know it's silly, charging batteries, cleaning lenses.
I'm gonna ask you later on. I'm gonna ask you when we get
Sure.
into wedding photo. I'm gonna ask you top 5 things you love, top 5 things you don't love.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get into. We're gonna have some
Okay.
fun
Yep.
here. So that's great. And by the way, guys, like hit that like button on this Vahagraphy Talk, and subscribe to Vahagraphy if you haven't. Touch Life Studios YouTube channel. It's actually Touch Life Studio.
Touch
Check
Life Studio. Yeah.
check Vitali out. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Vitali, your production quality is phenomenal. I mean, you do interviews to video, you talk about cameras, lenses. I love your lighting setup. When you do your YouTube videos, you explain it so thoroughly and so easy to understand that I really enjoy watching your videos. And as of late, your production quality has gone up through the roof. And I love it, man. I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh, I appreciate that, Hagen. I learn a lot from people like you. I watch your behind the scenes and other people, and little by little, I start kind of like experimenting. This is how you get better. Just experiment and try.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, link in the description. And on top, I will put Vitali's YouTube channel. And you also have a website. What's your website?
It's touchlifestudio.com.
Touchlifestudio.com. Check out his work. So let's get into the Nikon Z9. We're gonna get into weddings in a minute, but let's talk about the Z9. Okay, there it is. How long have you owned this camera?
So it's been nearly a year. I'm actually getting ready to slowly preparing for my kind of 1 year review video. I've
Nice.
done it 6 months, and it's been, I mean, it's a workhorse. It's a powerhouse. I mean, I don't know if I will buy any other cameras after this, Vahagan.
Dude, I saw your documentary style Z9 video. Right, it was phenomenal. I thought I was watching a Netflix documentary. I love the lighting, I love the audio quality, and your character. I was like, man, this is awesome. This belongs on Netflix, man. Seriously, that video is awesome. So tell us more about how the Z. What we're using before the Z9 for events.
So before the Z9, believe it or not, I was using mostly crop sensor cameras, Nikon. I was shooting with D7000. When I was doing some of my weddings, it was just enough for weddings. And again, for somebody who is saying you need always full frame camera, I've done a number of weddings and shoots, and I was very happy. My clients never ask me whether it's a full frame or crop sensor or what brand. And then I used D5000, which was, I think, one of my most favorite cameras I've ever used. I do have, I mean, I'm fully mirrorless now. I do use Z6II as well, which I
Yeah.
love, but I think D500 holds a special place in my heart. It
Wow.
was just something about the camera that I couldn't put down. And yeah.
You know, you know that you mentioned that like clients don't ask you crop sensor or full what camera using. I'm sure you know about my video where the client came in and they were like, it's not enough megapixels.
Oh,
I
I
want you to
heard that
use
one.
Canon. I was like, oh man. So I'm glad you didn't go through that in your client work and your clients, but you're mostly out of Connecticut. It's amazing that I look at different event and wedding photographers, and everybody's catering to their different markets. I'm sure
Hmm.
you have stories to tell. It's a great thing. But as far as back to the Z9. Okay, so when you transition to mirrorless, what benefits did you experience having that powerhouse of a camera when shooting events? And can you explain a little bit about that?
So I think one of the benefits of shooting mirrorless in general is what you see is what you get, right? What you see in the screen typically, unless you're using flash, um, you're gonna have an amazing results. I think the accuracy with the Z9. I think virtually every picture that I take. Again, I don't shoot sports, although I've done sports with my kids. But every picture that I take, every portrait is tack sharp as long as your settings are dialed properly, right? Before, when you had to use a DSLR and then you have to manually adjust the focusing system, out of like 10 shots, maybe like five would be okay. And then you choose the ones that are most pleasing. So with out of, Z9 or even Z6II that I use, almost every single shot. So in other words, I deliver a lot more images to my clients than I used to in the past. So, and it's not creating any much more work for me. It's just, I mean, what am I going to do with the images otherwise? And I under promise and over deliver, and clients love that.
That's awesome. And the speed of autofocus, do you usually see at events? I mean, I usually shoot single point. I mean, I'm used to it, man. I want total control of the camera. I know this thing tracks eyes like crazy. I know it can track. But when I shoot events, when I shoot weddings, I want total control of my camera. I want to pick where I want it to focus. And for me, I've been doing this for years. So do you. It's easy for us to just transition where we want the focus point. And with all those focus point, edge to edge, it's just amazing because I used to shoot DSLR too, a D4, D3, D800, and coming from that to this, it's like, wow, this is such an amazing tool in your hands. Talk about a little bit about the ergonomics of Nikon and especially the Z9 and the Z lenses.
Yeah, I think the ergonomics of, this is my, I guess, first, professional grade, if you will, camera that has built-in grip. And I would say is that like holding the grip like this is more comfortable actually for me than holding the grip like that. So I love the vertical approach. It just sits right. It feels like my hand is kind of molded for this camera. And I love the fact that it does the vertical, stand out like this, right? As opposed to
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
in Z6II doesn't do that. But again, having that in all, with firmware upgrades, your interface basically rotates if you're shooting vertically as well, right? So you don't have to necessarily be, kind of looking this way to see your settings and then flip that way. Just everything rotates with you automatically. Um, and all the button placements, all the function buttons, I think, I've mentioned a number of my videos that I released before, how I set up my function one, function two, function three for photo and for video. And I really love that. With the firmware 3.0 introduction of high res zoom, I set my F1 and F2 for high res zoom actually. And this is an amazing camera because now all your prime lenses now are zoom lenses for video, and people don't realize that. And you still get that shallow depth of field. You still get a lot of light coming to your camera. It's just I don't know. It's like, is there need for another Z9 too? I don't know what that's gonna do.
what are, what are we gonna do with all? I haven't even touched the tipping. I haven't even touched this camera like this to its full potential. Like I'll be honest with you, man. And then this is such a amazing tool for not only I mean, event wedding, yes, of course, but like this is ideal for sports, wildlife. It's just an awesome tool, and I can't get enough of this camera. I mean, this camera and the price point and everything like that. Nikon really, really hit a grand slam with the Nikon Z9, and it just you cannot. I can't get enough. I can't get enough, man. I keep talking about this camera, and it's just amazing. Firmware updates. This is awesome. I love what Nikon's doing with this because remember, Fuji and how they adapted listening to their users. I think they're taking a page out of Fuji's, work and doing this. It's great, man.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
awesome.
it's like some camera manufacturers, and I think I spoke about this recently on my some of my videos. They end up, releasing new camera body, and you feel like you have to be chasing after this new camera body. And I love the fact that it's like with these new updates with the Z9. I wish the Z6II and the Z7II had that, but maybe it's a hardware capability issue. But with the Z9, it's almost like like Tesla cars. They just release this new updates all the time, and you
Yeah.
feel like you get a new car. And like this is how I feel with the camera.
Exactly. It's just a shell with the processor and all the hardware you need. Okay, why we need a new camera? The it's fast enough. Just bring in the firmware updates. I mean, easier said than done, Icon. I know, but like it's just that's perfect. But you how you just explained it. When you flip the screen and when you were doing that, and that comes in handy because when I used like I shot like hundreds of weddings with the D4, right? And yeah, when you're shooting and you want to get that shot at a lower angle and you want to just flip that screen and you're shooting vertically, that is just so powerful, you know. And just that, I mean, even that, the screen looks nice, the viewfinder looks nice, the speed. I haven't had, Vitaly, I'll be straight with you. I haven't had any issues shooting weddings with this thing, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean you can just set this camera to IAF, and I've never missed a shot. Unless I wanted to, focus on someone specifically, and there's a number of people at, different depth of field, then I may need to adjust a little bit. But again, it usually shows you a little arrow left or right, and you switch that way. Um, so it's just like you know, I think the best camera ever Nikon created. It really is.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not gonna say I never shot before with a D6 or D5, but I can't imagine going from this back to DSLRs.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know if
mean,
anybody who gets this camera says I want to go back to DSLR.
look, the only I'll be honest with you, the only time I would probably do that is if just for the look of the DSLR, some cameras like the D4, they have a certain look that it's hard to replicate with the Z9 unless you tweak it. But other than that, man, other than that, it's just phenomenal camera. Like and when people talk online about the autofocus this, the autofocus that, I mean, for us event and wedding photographers, that that's all foreign language. Like seriously, that doesn't make sense to us. And this is a powerful. And you know what the bad thing about that is? They spread this information, and somebody might just read up on that, a really good wedding photographer, and say, you know what, I won't buy the Z9 because I'm hearing these negative things on these YouTube channels. But they really don't know. They really don't go out and shoot. You see? So yeah, but
It's an unfortunate truth for Hagen, I think, is that when you tell lie long enough, often enough, people start taking it for the truth.
yeah,
And unless you experience yourself, people will rely on other people's words, so
that's the key. You experience it yourself, because of, Z Wade Photo just did a videos on like Sony and Fuji. I mean, Sony, Canon, and he explains it clearly. He goes, "You got to experience it for yourself. You got to touch the camera, feel the camera." My honest opinion is that there is no camera like the Nikon Z9 ever so far, because we're not even talking about video yet, because I know you're a really, you're into video too. So there's no camera out there like this. I'll make a bet on that because I know I used the R5. I used Sony, not extensively, but I've used them.
Yeah,
And
you have a good well, pretty good experience with Canon R5. It's a great camera. It's, when it's paired with the right lens, it does a great job. It does this, I would say, probably when it comes to photography, it does as well as Z9, I would say. Um, and I've had misses with R5, a number of misses. So when people say it never misses, it's not true. I've had a number of shots that missed, so, and primarily for sports. So, um, but you can use any of these cameras. I think at the end of the day, it's what are your results? I think that's important to see. What are you
and al-
delivering? What's the
and
quality of
also
your images?
let me add this: there's no perfect camera.
No,
However,
no.
the Z9 is a heck of a tool, especially if you're like a Nikon shooter and you already have all the glass. It's definitely something to look into, guys. If you're thinking about a Nikon Z9, and by the way, they're readily available right now,
Yes.
so you can get one. And the price, man, $5,500 for a flagship. That's amazing.
You mentioned earlier Netflix word, and honestly, Z9 with its specifications could be on Netflix.
Mm,
Netflix, qualified camera based on Netflix, specifications that are required for cameras to have. So,
yeah, and you've done a lot of work with at events. When you use flash strobes at events, by the way, what do you use when you're lighting up? Like, for example, the reception, right? What do you shoot with, like, as far as your flashes go?
so I typically would have what I would resort to having a flash sometimes on top, and I would have an off-camera flash somewhere on the side there, either trying to backlit the subject or off to the side, or sometimes I would not even have a flash on top. I would only have a trigger, and I would kind of side light, my subjects that way. So it's typically one flash and one additional a powerful strobe. That's kind of sufficient for me because, as you know, as a wedding photographer, you're trying to minimize how much gear you bringing with you and moving around because it's a high pace event, and
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that you capture everything.
So, what I've noticed with the Z9 versus the Z6, Z6IIs is that when you're using strobes at events and you hit the flash and the flash goes off, it takes a little bit of a delay for the result to come up to the screen. This is like a second or two, like not a second or two, but a split second. But with the Z9, it's a lot faster. It's a lot
Yes.
faster readout time. You can actually see the image like almost right away. Um,
Yeah.
I still use, can you believe it or not? I still use SB800s, because I love that model.
Well, this one here that I have is the SB 700.
Oh, okay.
So I think this one is even older than the one that you're using.
Yeah, that one, I used to have that one. It fell off a stand and broke. But that's a good one. SB900 I've had, and the SB900 would overheat on me. I don't know. I think there was an issue with that. And then the 910, I've also had the 910. I've never owned the 5000, which is the latest flash from Nikon. But I think that doesn't get talked about. I think I don't know. I think they're trying to like go away from speed lights, Nikon, because I haven't really heard any new speed lights come out or talk about it. I think Pro Photo is in the mix for that. I don't know what they're doing with them, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to reliability. I know that Nikon brand flashes are reliable for a long time. I have transitioned to start using Godox as well. They are relatively reliable. I heard that Profoto is more reliable, but it's also more expensive.
Oh yeah.
But it's one of those things, lighting is what's going to improve your photography.
Yeah.
It's not so much of, this brand new super camera. It does help, but there's nothing like lighting will improve your photography. So you certainly should be investing into better lighting systems
Yeah.
if you want to improve.
Yeah, Godox makes really good products for the money. it's worth it because it doesn't cost too much to own. I have a few SB AD 200s that I use for the reception hall. They work really well with the Godox trigger,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great. If I'm using an SB 800 on my Z9, I'm usually using that trigger, but you can also get a Godox head unit that will
Yes.
trigger them as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So and Pro Photo, of course, it's 4 or 5 times the money, but I mean, you really it's good to have if I can, some people can't really afford that right now. So Godox is a good option. But as far as the Z9 goes, there's been a lot of talk about, oh well, the Z9 only the flash sync speed is only 1/200th of a second, and this and that. I'm like, man, are you actually shooting above that when you're using flash at events? I mean, there's no need to shoot above that sync speed when using flash. I mean, um, so yeah, there's been a lot of talk on that, on that front. I think you'd find a lot of people have to find something to complain about sometimes, you know,
Yeah,
and
I mean, you can always nitpick on a camera for certain things, I mean, I can, pick up this computer mouse and nitpick on that as well, but it delivers beyond of this camera. The Z9 is, you know, most people who use one, they don't use it to full potential, and I know I don't, because I don't shoot every genre of photography. So um, and I don't shoot every genre of film, of videos. So and this camera is geared towards everyone, right? Because in the past, D5, D6, it was what is it, a 20 resolution, 20 megapixel or 21 megapixel cameras. Well, this one is 45, so this one is good for landscape and product photography and 8K videos. So it covers all aspects of photography. It may not be the most prudent camera for if you want to do vlogging, because it's pretty heavy and it's pretty big. So it's not something I'd resort to do. Somebody may pick and they say, well, they need a fully articulating screen. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. If I'm who is a photographer, I really don't need that. You may talk about different things on, people comparing the EVF and the quality of EVF or something else. But at the end of the day, I don't spend that much time on the EVF. So, yeah, I mean, it really, this camera hits every checks every mark for me personally, from battery life to storage, as far as the CF Express XQD cards, and the lenses quality that Nikon offers. I mean, it is a top of a line camera, and for the money that it offers, um I
it's
don't know what to say.
it's tough to beat right now. Yeah. What as far as lenses go, what are some of your favorite Z lenses to use on the Z9?
Yeah, so the lens that I use most frequently, and not my most favorite because of its weight, is 24 to 70 2.8 S.
Ooh,
It's a lovely lens. I love it. In fact, I'm using it right now on my Z6II for this stream. But it makes camera a little heavy for me. And if you are there for a long time on the event, it's definitely you're probably going to feel it. Now, if I'm shooting a short event, I like it. I like it. I like the versatility. I like 24 to 70. My favorite lens, as far as the which lens I like to use for ergonomics, would be the 50 millimeter f1.8. I don't own f1.2, but I know f1.2 is as heavy as 24 to 70. But I believe you own one.
yeah, yeah.
You probably can confirm or deny. But my favorite lens, as far as the images, is the 85 f1.8 S.
Yeah, the 85-1.8 S lens is just a phenomenal lens to own as well. The 50-1.8, the 50-1.2. Here's the thing with the 50-1.2 size and weight. The Z9 is a nice robust camera. I think with the 50-1.2 size and weight, we haven't even seen the 85-1.2 yet, but that thing's going to be massive as well. But with that size combination, I think it bodes well together because the camera is balanced well with the grip and with the 51.2, it's phenomenal. You mount it on a Z6, it's a little intimidating with that 51.2 lens. It's a little, but the balance is a little off because of the size and weight of the lens. However, the with the Z9, the 1.2 is great. Yeah. By the way, Vitaly, that 24 to 72.8 that you were talking about, that's it. I think that's my favorite zoom from the Trinity. I think from the 7200 is great too, but there's something magical about that 24 to 72.8 that it's hard to explain. The sharpness at 2.8, the when you do video as well, the rendering of the image, the background blur, the way the zoom feels. It's not cheap feeling, you know. It's a good lens, and I like it. And for those people that say, I have a 24 to 70 f4, you know, why I need that? Okay, yes, the money difference, of course, but it's almost night and day. Being able to shoot 2.8 and the results you get with the 2470 versus f4. Don't get me wrong, the f4 lens is a great kit lens, but that 2.8 is just phenomenal, worth every penny in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the one I'm using right now on my Z6II. So,
Yeah.
it tracks. I mean, obviously the camera tracks the mostly, but lens is great. It's very versatile for, especially for video recording, for photography. I do like the FTZ adapter. You can very well adapt lenses. Maybe even F mount lenses. For photography, probably works fine. But when it comes to video, there's some special sauce in these Z lenses with the native cameras and lenses that it just makes things just so much easier, and results are just feels like different. And
Here I'm using the 35-1.8,
yep.
and this is at 1.8, but this is also, look at that, dude. Look at, notice how there's absolutely no focus breathing. Look at that.
Yep.
A little bit. I mean, look at the edges of the sofa. Just a little. I mean, but look at how it's, look at that. It's just phenomenal for video. So
Hmm.
these 1.8S lenses are something to be had, you know, and great for the money, you know. So Z9 features, other features that you really like as far as even both photo and video. What are they? What do you really really like about this camera?
Mm, let's see. Oh, I like the iMenu.
Hmm.
I usually set up my iMenu for photo and video differently, and depending on the functions that I use most of the time, it's quickly accessible depending on the setup. For example, if I need to do my video YouTube setup, I quickly know what to dial. It takes me probably a minute, and I'm done. And so I can be more consistent with that. And ability to use function buttons, customize them. I really, really like that because, again, if I need to quickly get to a certain function, I can do that. I can do that as well.
I like the fact that when you're doing video, like when you switch it real quick, it's just a very easy transition, and boom, you're already recording video. I like the fact that there is no limit to
Oh,
video.
there's no time limit, right? You're referring to that?
Yeah, time limit, 10-bit. The video quality, there's so many options about video. You know, it just videographers that I talk to, when I show them the Z9 and the menu system, and I show them all the video options, they're amazed. They're like, "Wow, this is phenomenal." You know, how much is this camera again? Yeah, they're almost tempted to go buy it for their videography work.
So I recently did this video, maybe a week or two ago, about kind of a top 5 things to know about the camera, and I talk about the video functions, and I compare different codecs and formats. And what I was really pleasantly surprised, and when I recorded in 8K, it was not much bigger file size than in 4K 120.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that is amazing. But then I compared ProRes RAW, and then NRAW, and those file sizes just went through the roof. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're
who
like,
is shooting? Who is doing that? You
you have a
know?
512 card, and it's like, what, 10 minutes? Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
I don't shoot. I'll be honest with you. I don't shoot video. I think I get really good results shooting video out of the camera. That I
Hmm.
really don't need to tweak it. I mean, I just put it. My favorite picture profile right now when I do talking heads is an L neutral. I
Hmm.
think it gives me the best balance. I really don't need to mess with it. 10-bit. I mean, the files are not huge. They're very manageable. They work flawlessly in Final Cut when you're editing. And yeah, I really like it, It's awesome. We're gonna get into your Helios adventure real quickly. You have a video on that. And by the way, thank you for shouting me out on that Helios video. And
Yeah,
I'm
well,
glad that
you inspired me. I was scratching my head. Wait a minute, that lens looks so familiar. Oh my goodness! Then I went into my. It was literally sitting on the shelf. It's sitting right there right now. Yeah,
and yeah, that was awesome, man. When you're like, wait a minute, I have that lens. Well, if you know guys don't know what we're talking about, it's an old Helios Russian 44-2 manual focus 58 millimeter lens, which is a cult classic, by the way. This lens is like there's a following, you know. And when you told me that, oh wait, you saw my little review I did, and you have this, and you went and mounted it. You even bought the adapter the next day, which is like $15, which is
yep,
cool.
yep,
Screw mount.
yep.
You mounted that thing on the Z9, and you went to town. And by the way, check that video out. It's on Vitali's YouTube channel, Touch Life Studio. But talk to us about adapted lenses on a Z9, because you've done a couple of videos now, and isn't it just a great experience just to rack focus and
Yeah, so I think adapting lenses, like with that Helios 44-2, the nice thing about mirrorless cameras is that you see your focus basically because you can switch to your what do you call that? When it gives you the
peaking?
yeah, yeah. The peaking on the screen, you
Peaking.
can change the color from green or I'm sorry, from yellow, red, and blue. And it makes it easy. It makes it fun to use those manual lenses. So I can see why so many, I guess, videographers, professionals, they use manual because there's a tactile feel to it, and you almost connect it to a subject when you do that. And the Helios has this, there's a certain character to it. I don't know what kind of glass they use, or because I've actually heard that many Helios lenses are made a little bit differently back then, and so I can see maybe there's no consistency in
Yeah.
lenses, which just kind of makes it cool, makes your lenses very very special.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was very easy to adapt. It's just a screw mount, and you get a feedback when it comes to what's on the screen, and you can focus that way. Would I go with the lens to a wedding? No, no.
Mm.
But I'll do this, some maybe creative shoots, and maybe with my family, or maybe for something else, kind of like for some special studio work, but not necessarily for event photography.
If yeah, for events, no, but if I was a videographer at events and I was at the park taking video of the bride or whatever, I would probably like mount it and just get some special effect video a little bit, I would probably use it there, but I love the Helios where the aperture ring is like smooth. There's no clicks. It just very smooth. And I had people tell me that when you go because this one guy was selling it on Facebook Marketplace, and I looked and I'm like, oh, I got to go buy it because it was local, $40. So I went over there, and the aperture blades had a little bit of oil on them, and it's okay. It doesn't affect picture quality. But I'm like, hey, for $40, who cares? Right? Let me just buy one. But it's a fun lens to use. The bokeh rendering is awesome on that. So I found that story of yours was great. Yeah. Thanks for
Thanks.
that. And I actually posted that video on a Helios Facebook group, and it
Okay.
got a lot of cool comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's if you sure it's Helios 44 or Helios Facebook group.
Write
It
it
was
down.
it got some comments. So yeah, man, you can adapted lenses, Z lenses, G lenses, E lenses, FTZ adapter. This camera is just all around workhorse. Um, highly recommend it, guys.
Yeah,
And
I mean, this camera has the largest mount diameter, which basically gives you flexibility to mount virtually any full frame lens that you have in the market today or in the past. So it's, I kind of, refer to this camera as a poor man's medium format camera.
yeah,
I mean, it's so close to it, really, when it comes to megapixel size and the mount size. And yeah, I mean, it's the results that you get. And if you have lenses and you're looking to switch, because it's one thing switching from one brand to another and having to buy the entire system, and
uh-huh.
that's can be very expensive. But switching from another brand to Nikon, you can literally carry over your lenses and a lot of your equipment into this Z system and be very, very happy with that. So, not having to kind of have a significant impact to your wallet. So,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, good guys. Again, if you're on the fence, you take it from me. Vitali's had his for months now, almost approaching a year. So, yeah, it's the jack of all trades camera. And no, it's not going to cannibalize. If the Z8 comes out, there will still be a market for Z9. You know, trust me on that. And what you feel the same way?
I definitely feel, I think sports and wildlife photographers is probably going to be their go-to. They
Mhm.
might resort to going to, Z8 or maybe a replacement to D500 if there will be one in the future, like a crop sensor. But again, because it literally covers all bases. You're probably going to be okay with this camera for next, 7 to 10 years if you use it professionally. And having only electronic shutter, no mechanical shutter, so there's no need to count your shutter number of shots you have. So
Talk to us a little bit about frames per second. I know we're event photographers, and we really don't. I'll be honest with you. When I shoot weddings, I don't move it out of single. I don't need to shoot 10 frames, 20 frames per second. But the only time I do that is when like somebody's popping a champagne, and you want that, that you want to capture that little moment, or somebody's releasing doves or something,
yeah.
or running. But other than that, it's single shot. Um, do you shoot raw and JPEG at events? JPEG or raw?
Yes, I do both. Yeah, I do raw on one card and I do JPEGs on the other card.
Oh, okay. What's your raw setting? Like, do you set it to like the what is it? The lossily
So
compressed
so there's a three settings, right? There's a lossless compressed, and there is a um
HE star HE.
high efficiency star
Mm,
and then high efficiency. So comparing all those three settings, the lossless, somebody who probably is a landscape photographer probably can benefit from that. But as far as the quality size, I use high efficiency star, which is about, I don't know, maybe one third of a file smaller. But
mhm.
again, when I'm comparing, uh, files of images versus videos, I mean, there's no comparison. So that's why I'm not so worried too much about the file sizes. Storage is cheap these days. It's 2023, right? So you can get a 1 terabyte of storage for $100, and it'll last you a long time. So
Yeah.
maybe not for video, but for photo at least. And
But
yeah, so
you convert and you deliver JPEG, right? To the clients.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I have people who ask me for raw images. Well, I don't give out raw images for two reasons. One of them is I don't want people to be tinkering with the files,
Yeah.
and there's my name behind it. And number two, most people don't have a way to process raw files. I mean,
Hey,
what are you going to do with it?
they're gonna tinker with it anyway in Instagram, right? They put that JPEG on Instagram, filter after
Yeah.
filter. Even that kind of upsets me. The image is so great just as it is, but a lot of
Yes.
9 out of 10 times the client, you know, loves those filters, and it's like why. So, um, when you transition from a Z9, well, when you go shoot an event, do you take two bodies with you? Do you take the Z9 and the Z6 too?
Yes, yeah,
Oh.
I would take two bodies with me. Definitely wedding, definitely wedding. Two
Mhm.
bodies with me, just in case. So that make sure if something happens, you have a way to continue working.
Do you
If
use that simultaneously? Like, do you adapt two different lenses and switch on you, or do you just keep the Z6 as a backup in your bag?
so, if if I'm at a high pace event and I need to have, two lenses, I would usually keep, let's say, 24 to 70 on one body, and then let's say either 50 or 85 on the other. I would just go interchangeably, depends. But a lot of times, for example, if you are at a wedding and you're doing some kind of like, getting ready images, pictures, it's not as stressful that you need to be switching
Yeah,
lenses. You
yeah.
can just go with one lens. The only time it's helpful if you are already at reception or you're at a ceremony when you need close-ups or you need a wide angle shots, and this is when you want to have two lenses. I know some people choose to have a second photographer. For the most part, I usually shoot by myself. At least this is my experience. But I can see the need for a second. I helped as a second photographer in the past, actually as a third photographer, depending on the size of the wedding. But yeah, it's, if I go to like a birthday party, or a celebration, I usually just bring one camera, and just use a backup. It's, there's a risk of something happening, but it's maybe not as high as a wedding.
Do you when you switching from, let's say you're at a big event, big wedding, and you are using two bodies, when you switch from body to body, do you find it a little, got to get used to it? Like, okay, it's a smaller body, the EVF is a little different.
Yeah, good question. I think I'm relatively used to, for example, like a Z6II. I've shot, for maybe a year and a half before I had a Z9, and I have enough of memory muscle, or muscle memory to know exactly what I need to do. And once I switched to Z9, because I've been using, quite a bit. I mean, I've taken the Z9 on vacation, just to be able to get used to it. For shooting my family around home, basically in the weekends. It helps me to practice. It's one of those things, actually, you want to practice, practice, practice. Always practice if you want to get better, because you never see an athlete going to a championship and try to win something without practicing. So if you're a photographer, you want to practice. You know what I mean? And
Good point. Good point. With me, I have a little dilemma when I shoot. I don't have two Z9s. I would want eventually, maybe. We'll see. That's the perfect scenario for me. But currently, I have a Z9 with a Z6. When I'm doing that, so when I'm out in a park, let's say, and there's beautiful landscape in the bride and groom, right? I take one wide, super wide lens,
mhm.
because some of my clients love that look, and I take a portrait lens. So I either have a 7200 and a 14 to 30 or 1424. Here's my dilemma: which camera to, because usually the portrait lens, I like to shoot portraits with close up of the bride or groom, uh, uh, and the wide lens showing, like, them a little smaller with the background. So obviously the Z9 has higher megapixels. So you would put the wide lens on the Z9, right, to get all that detail. Portraits, you don't need that much detail. That's actually would work against you with some of the flaws in brides' faces. But here's my dilemma. I like the Z9's features when I'm doing portraits. I like the handling. I like the eye tracking, right? If I'm using that kind of stuff. But I don't use it because I want the higher megapixels. So I guess my thing would be probably just to get like a Z7 II.
Well, this was my next, yeah, this was my suggestion to you. If maybe Z7 would be
Yeah.
helpful, or Z7 II for high megapixel, then it kind of will solve that problem. But I agree with you. When you were shooting close ups, and people don't need to see every single pore and scar on their faces.
Yeah.
And women are very mindful about that, and I try to be respectful of that. So, and sometimes, given how sharp these lenses are, I have to soften actually in post, just to make things a little bit more appealing, because yeah, because nobody comes to you and looks at every pore, you know what I mean? So we don't really see people that way. So
So and also uh when I use a Z9 and then when I switch to Z6, it's like, damn, dude, give me the Z9 back again, you know. Right? It's like it's hard to use the Z6 after. Great camera, by the way, but when you get used to something, it's kind of hard to use something else. The Z8 I'm looking forward to because it might have that higher or even greater megapixel count, and that will be a perfect solution for me. That's why I don't want to buy anything right now, because I want to just see what the market, can do with that. What's available to us. You're from Connecticut, right?
yes.
Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Latvia. It's a small
Nice.
country basically, as far as on the map. If you look at, where Finland is on the map, and if you look south of Finland, basically across the Baltic Sea, this is where Latvia is. It's one of those one of those three Baltic countries. There's Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and it's actually Latvia is about the size of Connecticut. So when it comes to states, so yeah, it's a small country.
When you when did you come here? When did you come to the States? 2001.
Well, a couple times. The first time in 2001, and the second time in 2002.
You've been back ever since?
I have
Back
traveled.
home?
Yes, I have traveled a few times. Yeah,
I mean, when I go back, I mean, to my country, Armenia, it's like, I feel good, everything is just so familiar to me. I mean, I'm from there, but I mean, I've been in America most of my life, raised here and stuff, but it's just interesting and fascinating that I like to hear things from photographers like with different backgrounds sometimes, and I like to learn about more of their culture and the similarities, the differences. I'm all for that. I love history and I love geography, so
you
that's
guys do a
something.
lot of shish kebabs, right?
Yep, barbecue, shish kebab.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's we definitely like to eat, man. This is a eat and drink kind of culture.
great wine,
Yeah,
great Armenian wine. I remember my parents used to drink, buy Armenian wine. It's usually like a sweeter wine.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome.
That's cool, man. Wedding photography. Let's touch on that a little bit. Tell me your couple of things you like about weddings and the things that you kind of don't. Let's start on what you like about it.
I think what I like about weddings is that I like this whole energy and vibe. And, you usually see a lot of people stressful in those events. And I feel like I'm kind of functioning very opposite during those events. I tend to be, okay, well, how do we reduce stress? How do we help the bride and help the groom? And, when I'm there to take pictures, I provide suggestions. I move things for people. I just love to be helpful, and kind of they appreciate that. They warm up to you. They then follow your directions when you tell them what to do. Because at the end of the day, you want to make them look good. Because even as bride and groom, they are the centerpiece, and everybody else is just a decoration. So I, being a decoration, try to serve in that way and help them out. So that's one of the things that I really like, is just helping people and calming people down and getting through the situation. Um, Another thing that I like about weddings is that I don't know, just maybe being a little bit techie. I like preparation. I like figuring out exactly what I need, where I'm going to be. One of the things that I would suggest somebody who is looking to get into wedding photography is that be prepared for pictures that you want to take. In fact, a lot of times I would make a list of certain shots that I'm gonna strive to achieve during the event, And if I get at least 80% of those shots done, I feel good about it because I want to be able to deliver something good.
Yeah.
So, kind of being prepared, it helps me to go in with much more, relaxed mind. And I would find out also what bride and groom wants to have as far as their final deliverables and what they're looking for, and just really adjust to their style as well. So,
Well, you seem like a really nice guy. I mean, I don't think anybody would get pissed off at you during a wedding. Like videographers, sometimes we get into it. Yeah, I definitely got stories of that. But if I was a videographer and I had you as a photographer, I think it'd be like just easy to work with. You're very easy to work with. I think. I've never seen a pissed off Vitali.
I've seen, like I've had videographers who I work with, and I wasn't really happy about things they were doing. But again, it's only 10 minutes of my day. I'm not gonna let that distract me from my kind of the final, what I'm trying to do. So it's like, it's kind of like if you, you know, um, lose a dollar, I'm not gonna lose a sleep over that dollar. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna focus on the rest of my, my goal. So,
Definitely. With me, it's like one thing that really gets to me about weddings is that when we're pressed for time, we're
mhm.
scheduled at 12 o'clock to start, let's say, right? And the hairdresser, the bride's not ready until 2 o'clock. What does that mean? Number one, we're waiting around. Number two, we have another like 30 minutes to get all the shots in before the church. It's like, man, that really like you get crunched for time, and that can upset me. I'm on like uh the mode like run and gun. Let's get it done. Let's get this done. But it's all usually the hairdresser, the makeup artist. The bride doesn't like her hair and they got to redo it. That's
Mhm.
why I stress to the bride. I go, listen, be ready. I'm gonna be there at 12. Let's say. I want you to be ready, and just make sure you're ready at 12. Sometimes never happens, but
Yeah.
that's one
And one
thing.
other thing that I like about weddings, it's more like a post weddings. I like the post production. I like making be unique in some ways, and I start making canvas for my clients.
Okay.
I make them at home,
Oh
and
wow.
so that's kind of like I don't know. There's just a ability to create something, and deliver something different that your clients don't expect. That's kind of been a fun part as well.
Do you is it word of mouth for your business, or is it like do you advertise? Do you
I
post?
do not advertise, and it's probably my own flaw, but I'm okay with that because again, I usually have, I have a full time job that I really love as well. So um, for me, it's just word of mouth. People know me. People refer me to from friends to other clients, and I think
Do you post on IG?
there's so many social media these days. I've been trying to dive in more with the YouTube, so I just don't have time with IG as much, and I probably should. I've been posting there once in a while, but if you go to my IG account, last time I posted was probably last century. So it's
You're probably like scared of getting burned out because if you get like let's say for example you have a 9 to 5 job, you have a 9 to 5 job Monday to Friday, but let's say you have a every weekend you have a wedding, right? Let's say Saturday and Sunday you're booked. Can you
mhm,
imagine what your Monday will look like? Like you'll be dead tired. You'll be
yes.
burned out. This is what happens to me. I get burned out towards the end of the wedding season. And then towards around this time, February, when there's no weddings, f- I miss it. I'm like, I can't wait to start again. So I get burned out easily too. So especially most Armenian weddings are very long. We're at 14, 13, 14-hour days, man.
That's long. Yeah.
That is long. Imagine starting at sometimes 9 a.m. And going till like 1 or 2 in the morning.
I remember I did this wedding. I took my son to a wedding with me. He was just helping me out, and we did not leave until probably like close to 11 p.m. And as soon as we got in the car, he was out.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
I-
it's
w- what I like to do is my second shooter takes over at the reception because I really don't need to be there.
that's smart. That's great. Yeah.
I usually just leave after the first dance, and because you don't need no creative things, you're just gonna cover what dancing.
Yeah, that's a good approach to manage your energy. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, um, photographers, choose your second photographers wisely, and always tell them that act as if it's your job, and pay them a good rate. Now, don't go cheap. If they deliver the goods for you guys, don't go cheap on that. Make them happy. And if you need to raise your prices to cover that, do it. So, one thing you really kind of don't like about weddings, like if you were to pick one thing.
And one thing is, I wouldn't say I don't like. It makes it a little bit challenging, but I'm kind of used to managing situations. Is when you have to do formals and everybody is everywhere, and you
Oh,
have to really be kind of that manager of telling people, all right, get grandma, get grandpa and sister, and there's little Johnny's running around, and you know what I mean, and people want to just go have fun, get that, but you're trying
yeah.
to get the formals done, and sometimes even the bride and groom can be so many directions, can be pulled in so many directions because of people try to greet them or leave and whatnot. So
It's
sometimes you
like,
can
hey,
actually lose.
where's mom? Where's dad? Get
Yes,
grandpa. It's like, man, where's
yes,
the coordinator? Are you paying the
yes,
coordinator for this? And sometimes we don't have coordinators. We're the coordinators. So it's like double duty, man.
yes, yeah. So
So
that's the
you're
only
right.
part that I feel like sometimes is challenging because it's like can feel frustrating a little bit. But once I get past that point, things are much better.
Do you usually have a bag I mean, you take your bag with you. Do you have your bag with you in a roller or do you have it in a backpack?
I
Um,
just use a backpack, and depending on where I'm at, I usually have a backpack with me. If I am somewhere, for example, starting with the reception, starting with getting ready, I have my backpack with me, maybe one or two lenses. And if I go to a ceremony, maybe I put my backpack in the car and I have my cameras with me. I try not to keep my, most of my equipment in the car just in case. And, it kind of travels with me. So, I mean, you don't need a whole lot of gear. I see that a lot of videographers that I work with bring, rolling cases and just they sit in the corner, which is, I get it, they need a lot of stuff. And, but I've heard people, videographers forget, their gear or something get lost from once in a while. So, because you just have so much to keep track of, especially if you're by yourself. Um, yeah. So,
how do you justify one business question for you?
mhm.
Um, someone that's getting into weddings, they got their stuff down, they got their technique down. They're pretty good, but they figuring out how much they should charge. They shot a couple of friends' weddings. They got somewhat of a portfolio and they're really talented. Now, what advice do you give them to price themselves correctly in the market? That's a tough
Well,
one.
that's a hard part actually, figuring out exactly how much you charge because much of it depends on the area. Again, I am in Connecticut. As soon as you move down a little closer to New York City, you can probably at least double your prices because of
Wow.
just market is out there, both for photography and videography. So sometimes I know client or photographers or videographers they would increase their rates depending on where they go to shoot because people are willing to pay. And
Mm.
where I'm at, so I obviously with inflation things has gone up. I mean, it's fair to raise your prices maybe 10-15% depending what you used to charge. But it all depends. I mean, if it's only your third or fourth wedding maybe or event, uh, it's maybe too much to ask to, triple your prices just because, you found other photographers who've been shooting weddings events for 20 years do that. So you want to continue to build your portfolio. You want to deliver quality product and you want to build relationships with people because if you are into this, you want to be thinking long term. It's not just a short term paycheck really. So think long term and, because it's not always about the money. The way I like to see it is that it's all the opportunities that you get and all the places that it takes you. I think this is what is this experience is more about. And even like starting YouTube channel here, I don't think you and I would have connected if you and I would not have a YouTube channel.
Exactly.
So it's more of the places that it takes you and experiences that you get to have. So it's not always about the money, but you want to be fair with people and to yourself, because if you charge very little, people may not take you always seriously. They might want to go with somebody who sounds like a better price, or higher price, but it sounds more reasonable because people may know something about this genre of photography or videography.
Yeah, and like have the work to back it up. Number one, but that's not the only thing. Try to be, how do I say this? Like people's person, cool, good attitude, all that. How do you sell yourself? How why do people gonna hire me versus the other guy?
Yes, yeah.
Just the whole experience. I tell my clients it's the experience. This is a great line I got from somebody else. And I tell my clients this: think of me as a great friend with a fancy camera. We're just having fun here. We're just, rocking and rolling. That's all. Oh yeah, all right, cool, man. Yeah, so because a lot of times clients are nervous, they're stiff, they don't know what to do. They look at me and they go, okay, what do we do now? All right, let's have fun. That's it. Yervant, you've heard of Yervant from
Oh
Australia?
yeah, yeah. He's an awesome, phenomenal photographer.
He takes his couples out to. He takes the whole bridal party out to a bar. I mean, that's if they have time, they just go into the bar. Everybody has a shot just to loosen up during the park, whatever, if they're in the city. And after that, he says that the client is theirs because he goes and I go, what? Do you pick up the bill? He go, oh yeah, I gotta pick up the bill, and then he goes, yeah, I'll get it out from somewhere. I'll sell him an extra page in an album or whatever. But I find that was awesome.
No, I
So
think it's so much about building relationships with
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Whether it's your clients, because I've had a number of clients who, after I shot their weddings, because I was able to build a good relationship with them, they remembered me. 2 years later, they called me. They had a baby. Hey, can you come shoot my child 1-year-old party? Sure.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And when I see them, I'm like, it feels like I've known them for a long time. So
yeah.
having that relationship with people is super, super critical.
I want to just real quick question about the Z9, really quick. One advice you would give somebody shopping for one, just they like the camera, but the question is, do they want to spend $5,500? Where would you steer them to right now in the Nikon lineup that Nikon has, the cameras that they have? They don't want to spend 55. What would you tell them?
Good question. So because there's a gap right now, as you know, between Z6, Z7 II, and a Z9, right? So maybe that Z8 will be the next step in between. But I actually have a friend of mine who was recently shopping for his daughter camera, and he was asking me for recommendations, and I recommended to get a Z5.
Okay.
She's a teenager. She's looking to learn photography. She loves it. She's taking a class at school, and it's because I'm trying to be mindful of the budget. And I mean, honestly, if you're shooting weddings, you can get away with a Z5 easily. Z5
Mhm.
and Z6, that's all you need, really. And, you don't need a Z9 for that. So it's just the reason I've gotten into Z9, because I also do a lot of videos, so that was important for me. But you can get, I mean, you can certainly get into any other brand, whether it's a Sony or Canon or even Fuji. But I kind of like the ergonomics. I like the lenses. I love the menu, how easy it is, and things that you can do with it. So I don't know if the answers your question, Vahagan, because there's a gap right now
There's a
between the
gap. Yeah,
Z6
that's what I
and
was getting
Z9.
to though. That
Yeah.
I wanted just to see what you would say, but hey, sometimes a Z6 used is a great deal. Like if you could find one for like $900, the Z6 I, that's phenomenal. I mean, I have
Oh
no
yeah.
issues buying used. I buy them all the time. Um, but yeah, man, for me, Nikon is for me, all brands are great, but Nikon just hits home for me because it gives me everything I want. You know, as far as image quality, the colors, the ergonomics, the lenses, phenomenal glass makers, by the way. You know, without getting into like Zeiss and Leica, but those are not practical for weddings. So yeah, definitely. Let's talk briefly about YouTube, and we'll go out and get out of here.
Yes.
Are you loving it? Tell us something about your channel.
I so my channel is it's mainly started to, I think the way I created my YouTube channel was because I was sharing some videos or photos, in form of a video with a friends of mine. And then I had a channel created in the background. And then during COVID, we all spent a lot of time at home. And I think one of my first videos was really, I was reviewing the Z6II. And I was like, oh well, let me try to do that, because it's one of those things I learned, is that you want to experiment in life, because in a quote I heard somewhere, they said, 20 years from now you're going to regret things, not the things that you did, but things that you didn't do. And so I'm trying to really be mindful of that, and use some of my skills and learn and experiment. And so my YouTube channel is, sharing with people, how to be better photography, review cameras and lenses, primarily Nikon related. But a lot of those techniques can be applied for any camera brand. And yeah, it's just it's fun, to make memories, to experiment, and kind of leave something behind. Hopefully, maybe 20 years from now my kids will be watching me. And so it's, kind of maybe very, very passive source of secondary income, if you will.
Oh yeah, I'm not even talking about the money. Is not even. It's like what, a dinner maybe a month.
Yep. Yep.
It's not there yet, but hey, I enjoy it. I like it. I get to connect with people like yourself, and I get to help others on the channel. It's addicting for me because you make a video, then you want to make another video, then you want to, expand on that. You want to help people, give them advice, review something. I love the way you approach your videos. Like I said, your production quality is top notch. Love your sound. You got everything down, my friend, and you got a likable personality. I really enjoy your content, and I really wish you the best of luck, man.
I appreciate it,
Y-
Vahagan. Yeah.
You guys, everybody, Touch Life Studio, man. You got to subscribe to this guy. You don't necessarily need to be a Nikon shooter. He talks about photography. He talks about lenses, and forget about the brand. Get that out of your head. It's about photography, you know. But if you're a Nikon shooter, even better because he uses Nikon. But in the future, you never know what Vitali will pick up. So, um, yeah, Touch Life Studio. I really, really like what you're doing, man. Keep on going. One thing that you wanna maybe start a little, like one thing you want to try in the future in your videos, is it a little idea of something different that you haven't done
Um,
before?
yeah, I think I would like to do more interviews with people, like for YouTube specifically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I
Yeah, I
like that
would.
Sony thing you did with the guy sleeping.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That one. That's actually a good friend of mine. He's a Sony guy. He's a best friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Um,
good. That was comedy. It was good. Good job. I love things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I want to do just more interviews with people just on the street about, photography, or take pictures of candid pictures of people and ask them, or maybe ask them if I can take pictures of them. Because because a lot of people, with the smartphones, I was actually, yeah, I was on vacation this past summer, and I was with my camera. I think I was with the Z6 II, and somebody asked me, I was in the streets there taking pictures, and one guy approached me and he says, oh, last time I saw one of these was like 10 years ago. I was like, people don't shoot with, with a DSLR or mirrorless out and about as much as with phones these days,
Yeah,
um
yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
So something I like, what I want to also get into more of just the video production a little bit more when it comes to um either music videos or some kind of like a creative work. I do like corporate videos. I think those are interesting because you get to work with interesting people, and you get to use your equipment and then edit it, and finally work actually gets to serve someone else. So that's fun to do that. But again, it's I only do this part time, because I have my full time job, which I enjoy. So yeah, it's
Well, I could
so
imagine if you were doing it full time, but that's great. I mean, do what makes you happy, man. Stay humble, and just go at your own pace. This is a marathon, not a sprint, like I said.
yeah,
And we
absolutely.
got no end goal. This is just creating content and helping others, joining the community. That's all I'm doing. And by the way, I'm kind of in the similar boat as you. And that around that time, I said, let me try something. This channel is accidental, actually, because I was out shopping with my wife, and I had the Fuji X100 camera on me. I had my iPhone, and she made me wait, on the side and the chair there for a while she was shopping. And I had my camera. I put the camera down, and there was some really good lighting hitting the camera on the table. So I took out my iPhone, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can take some nice detail shots of this camera, with my iPhone video. And then I put it together in iMovie on the phone. I put the actual clip together on iMovie while I'm sitting there. And then my very first video, if you look at the X100T shots on that bench, all that stuff is accidental. I didn't even know I was starting a channel. I uploaded that video. It got such a good response that I'm like, all right, let me do another one. Let me do another one. And then lo and behold, I guess I am a YouTuber slash photographer all of a sudden. So,
Yeah.
but by the way, I love this. I love these interviews. Like, I love doing this. I think this is my calling, is this talking to other like-minded professionals. I really enjoyed this part the most. I like it.
Yeah, and I think like I love watching other people and learn from them. It's I'm not so much into. I just don't have time to listen to podcasts as is if I wanted to, but sometimes when I'm driving, I listen to YouTube talks like this. I've listened to a number of yours, or Chuck from AP Studios when I'm driving. And just kind of like I don't have to watch it, but I listen for content, and if something strikes me, I might want to, comment later on, you know what I mean, about something. So yeah, it's a great way to connect and learn from people. So
Yeah, one thing that I kind of I say, what I found out doing this YouTube thing that I kind of didn't want to find out
hmm
is that some people in this circle, there's majority of the people are great. They're good to work with. They're fun and they're honest. But there are this handful of people that you go, whoa, hey, you send them an email about something, either they don't respond or they respond very rudely. It's like, hey man, chill a little bit, calm down. Like, we're just photographers here. Some people on this in this YouTube think of themselves so highly that it's a turn on for me. It's like, why? At least respond. At least say, you don't want to do something, or you're not interested. Don't ignore. Don't do this. Don't do that. That's one thing that really gets to me. I don't like that about people.
mm,
You have time to respond to an email. It just takes 2 seconds. The excuse of I don't have time, or this and that, just finding little things out about people.
yeah,
It just says, wow, like, it's unfortunate, really. And a wise man once told me, never take yourself too seriously. You know, never take yourself too seriously. You'll be fine.
you're gonna laugh about those things. I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you, how do you feel about some of the comments sometimes, YouTube comments that you get? Do you mainly find comments are very positive, or there are those that are sometimes people come down? You know what I mean? How do you react to
Good,
those?
good question, man. In the beginning, I let it get to me. The negative ones. I was like, whoa, why? You out of 25-minute video, out of all these good points that I laid out, you decided to comment on that one thing that I maybe got wrong, out of that whole thing, right? And we're human. We make mistakes, man. Especially if it's a one-man show here. You got to look at the camera, you got to look at the lighting, the audio, everything's got to be right. So those comments really got to me in the beginning. After, I stopped really caring. Like, the majority of the comments are positive, 99.9%. But unfortunately, you can't please everybody in this YouTube thing, and there'll be trolls. There'll be people that are. Look, I'm a straightforward guy. I'll say it. There'll be jealous people. Well, there's jealous people out there that, hey, they're not in front of a camera. Well, you know what? If you're gonna come here and tell me what I'm doing wrong or how I should do things, why don't you do it yourself? You get in front of a camera. You do all this stuff, or are you just good at sitting in front of a computer and just trolling people like all day? But I don't mind constructive criticism. Like, if somebody is coming from a good place, hey, by the way, and I've given many of those. He goes, hey, by the way, I'm not trying to, like, discredit
Hmm.
you, but try this. And those people usually will leave a comment, but the ones that are discreet about it will email me, say, hey, like, I would love to see this, or I would love to see that. And I love that. I love the feedback. But if somebody comes and says, thanks for wasting 10 minutes of my time, how am I going to respond to that? Well, I learned my lesson. I responded, and they got really offended that I told them, you know what, you could go watch something else. I mean, I'm sorry, you know, well, you can't be like this or you can't be like that. Well, I'm sorry, brother. You're not paying for this content. I can't cater to you the way you want me to. I'm sorry for wasting your
Hmm.
time, right? But again, I'm a straight shooter. Like, if somebody enjoys the videos I put out, they'll subscribe. If somebody's going to get offended because I said something, then hey, you know what? I'm me. Be yourself at the end of the day. And sometimes I look at myself and I say, maybe I shouldn't have said that so directly to them, but it's hard. I changed my ways. I don't care about anymore. I care, but I don't let it get to me. Man, I could talk about this for hours because it's just a whole psychology on YouTube is
Yeah.
is deep. It's deep.
Yeah. I mean, there are YouTube channels that teach you how to run YouTube channels. I mean, it's its own animal for sure. So
VidIQ, check him out. You've seen VidIQ,
I've seen, yeah.
the bald guy. He's great. Like, how to make uh like how to go from 1,000 to how to go from 0 to 1,000 in like 5 months. Or he plays it out. Like, he tells us what it is. And one thing that I got from him recently is, like, right away, hook him. Get rid of the intro. I got rid of my intro. I don't have an intro no more. You know, I'll tell people who I am at the end if they're interested. I'll tell them
Yeah,
to
that's a
like
good
and
point. Yeah,
I'll
that's a
tell
good
them to
point. There's
like
a
and
lot of
subscribe.
those.
You don't need like. There's a lot of those, and that's a good advice for some of you guys that are starting YouTube channels. But anyway, yeah, I could talk this for hours, man. I've been studying this stuff. But yeah, man, no, this was fun, man. Definitely the best of luck to you, Vitali.
I appreciate it.
I,
Thanks for having me, Vahagan.
yeah, you're welcome, guys. Touch Life Studio on YouTube. Check him out. Subscribe to his channel. You really like what he's doing. I was hooked. I was hooked. I'm trying to remember where I saw you first, though. Do you remember? Was it?
I'm not sure. Maybe one of my videos, or
I don't
maybe
remember. Maybe it was.
commenting somewhere. I don't know.
I think it
Maybe
was
I
your
come.
Z6.
I'm sure I commented on your video somewhere in the past.
Yeah, I noticed. I think you did a Z6 video. Oh, that one video you did that's really helpful to a lot of people was the
Which?
video where you describe the rolling shutter effect with the fan.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
That was a great video. I think that video you get a lot out of it because it really shows you, okay, the spinning fan and the Z9. I think it was a Z9 and the Z6 comparison.
Yeah, so that was a sort of a follow-up video, or maybe I wanted to do a test. I found one YouTuber, I think his name was Math Photographer, and he did the test, and I was like, wow, that looks very intriguing. Let me retest myself and share with my viewers. And I tested, and I virtually got very similar results, and that really kind of show like, wow, that the electronic shutter of the Z9 is unbeatable, and so you kind of can see what technology is going. I'll be very, very surprised if the Z8 does not have an electronic shutter. But again, I could be wrong, because it may cost. So but you can see where that technology is going. So electronic shutter,
There's
I mean, our phones been having electronic shutters all this time,
mm,
right? So now it's in mirrorless cameras. So
there's so much to talk to about the Z9 that even forgot to mention that part. So yeah, guys, definitely a great tool to own. And I hope they don't upgrade. I hope they don't do it. I hope they wait 3-4 years. Because this camera's all we need right now. For the Pro flagship line. The Z8 I'm welcoming,
honestly,
but I'm talking about the Pro flagship. That's all we need right now. We don't need an upgrade. I don't like when they come out a camera every year, every year, every year. It's like, let us enjoy the camera, man. Let us feel good that we have the top of the line Nikon right now or Nikon. So real quick before we go, I just curious, some YouTube channels that you do like watching, camera related, photo related,
ooh, gosh, I got a
like
number of
three.
three. Well, it would be wrong for me to say if I don't like Vahagraphy.
Well,
Uh,
besides me.
let's see. Who do I like to watch? Oh, geez, I need to almost pull it up right now to see who is in my. I have a long list of people there, to be honest.
Just out of the top of your head, who do you really enjoy? Like, are they Nikon centric? Are they just in general?
Yeah, not necessarily. Um, let's see. I like a lot of tech videos. I like watch videos by Marquise Brown.
Okay.
He does a lot of tech reviews. I enjoy. Let's see. I like to learn about lighting, Epic
Mhm.
Light Media. They talk
Mm.
about lighting, and
Yeah, lighting is just another animal, man. You
I,
can
I
get
I really
so much
like
from it.
practical videos or
Mm.
practical teaching. DSLR video shooter. He does a lot of reviews when it comes to cameras and lenses. I
You know
do
who I've
like
been you know who
what
I've
is it?
been watching right now? I've been
Yeah,
watching some Brownlee. What is it? What was his name? The guy with the curly hair, Brownlee or something like that. He did
Brown.
a thing with Manny Ortiz.
I
Never
do
mind.
watch Manny Ortiz too. Yeah, but I can't. I'm not sure exactly who you're referring to. I like to watch DP reviews, guys.
Hmm.
Like because they give perspective from photography and videographer standpoint. In fact, the Z9, I believe they named the Z9 camera of the year for 2021. I want to say
Hmm.
or 2020. In other words, they didn't even have a camera, but based on the specifications, they named it camera of the year at the time.
Oh, okay.
I like to watch. I know a lot of people are sometimes don't have the same positive feedback about Tony and Chelsea, but I like to watch the videos, especially a lot of newer ones when they started making had a channel in the beginning. They were
Yeah.
educational, you know what I mean? They were literally teaching people about photography. I like to watch John Branch, the fourth photography. He actually talks about Fuji.
Yeah.
That's all he shoots, but he has a very good content, and he talks about weddings. That's his bread and butter. Um,
The guy that I was talking about is Dan Watson.
oh, Dan Watson.
Dan
Yes,
Watson.
yes, he is very educational.
What the
I
hell was
agree.
I saying Brownlee for?
Brownlee, it's the guy. I think
Marcus Brownlee.
he does Three Elephant and something like that.
Oh, okay. Now I like Dan Watson stuff.
Yes,
Very,
Dan
very
Watson.
cool.
I like him too. Yeah, they
And
do weddings and they do different things with his wife, I believe, right?
yeah, yeah. Dan Watson, and then there's another guy. I forgot, but he's really cool. He's from Finland. A young guy, talks about content creation.
Oh,
He-
is he Peter Lindgren?
He's cool too, yeah, but it's not Peter Lindgren, the one I'm
Oh,
talking about.
hmm.
But anyway, yeah,
Oh,
guy.
I like Omar too. Omar
Oh,
Gonzalez.
yep, very level-headed, funny guy.
Yeah.
I like his content a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of creatives out there, and you know what, my favorite thing to do is just maybe collaborate with some of these folks, and this is why I do it. This is why I do
Yeah.
it. I really enjoy this part, and it's just a way of me of just picking your brain, because I want to pick your brain, and I want to learn from you, and I think
Mm.
that it's a great thing that we can learn from each other and stuff. Um, I'm an open book, so if anybody wants to, like the Joe Mansland guy, Joe
Oh
Mansland
yeah.
from
Yeah.
Canada,
Is he from Canada or somewhere?
yeah,
Yep.
Alberta, or Calgary, is that the same? I don't know, but he's a young guy, and he started to get into this, and I like to watch him progress and get better and motivate others. That's what we do,
Yeah.
motivate people. So
I think would be great to see is maybe more women in photography because I don't see. I think I mean most of my viewers are men. I was like 98% maybe.
same.
So, but there are obviously women out there who love photography as well. But I don't know if they have channels or not. I
You know
saw
what
the
I
you had
what was it?
what's
Claire?
yes, she was from England I believe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That was a great interview.
yeah,
It's a great way to bring other people up.
yeah.
So
She's cool, man. Every time I talk to like females, girls from like when I'm shooting, like if I'm at a wedding and I see like bridesmaids or whatnot, I go, "Hey, would you want to get into photography?" Like sometimes they don't know what it is, but until you introduce them to the camera, then they get all into it. And then when I see people when I see female photographers out in the field, because I
mhm.
do work with a few, I
Yep.
say, why don't you come? Let's do something together. I want to introduce you to YouTube because we need more of that. You're right. So, on that
Yeah.
note, brother, thank you so much, Vitali. Check out Touch Life Studio on YouTube, and thank you for your just this interview, the Nikon Z9 talk about wedding photography and everything like that. So, guys, like and subscribe. This channel is great, and yeah, thank you for watching. Any last words, Vitali, before we go?
Um, yeah, I mean, go shoot out there. You know what I mean? Whether it's a point and shoot, maybe it's your phone, and then eventually you get into a mirrorless or DSLR. It's a great way to make memories, and you don't have to be into wedding and event photography. You can do products, you can do your family, you can do pets. I mean, everybody does these days it on the phones. But it takes it to a different level when it comes to actually holding a camera in your hand and maybe even street photography, and it's just it's a great way to good mental health, exercise, and
I
yeah.
like that bike that you have, man. That air bike, that was cool, dude.
Oh yes,
That
I
exercise
love
machine
fitness. That's
bike,
actually one other thing that I would love to do. I would love to do more videos about fitness.
that's
Yes,
cool. Yeah, I love that thing. You were riding it. It was cool.
the thing is
So
awesome, Hagen. That thing is awesome. You should get one for those for yourself.
I am, man. I just started my fitness thing, and I'm kind of out of it because I haven't really ate all the carbs that I'm used to eating. So, yeah, but it's gonna be good. I'm gonna get used to it, and it's good. I'm looking forward to the progression, and you guys will see that in the channel. So, all right, thank you,
Yep.
Vitali. Good luck to you. This was Vahagraphy Talk number 5555. All right, good one. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Thank you for
Take care,
watching.
guys.
Thank you, Vitali. This is Vahagraphy with Vitali. I'm Vahagan. He's Vitali. I'm your rock and roll photographer. We'll catch you on the next video. Rock and roll.